Hi everybody, my name is Steve and I'd like to walk you through a very short session on posture analysis. So as a massage therapist, I see a lot of people who jump into different fitness regimens. They jump into yoga, they jump into Qigong, they start a couch to 5K, they hit the gym, and then typically about 3 weeks later, maybe a month, they end up on my table. The reason being is because while their muscles are sore because they're now using them in a way that they haven't been using them in the past. The other thing is whatever the other thing that happens is they end up with their knee is killing them, or their hip is killing them, or their back is killing them in a way that makes it where they want to drop out of the program. And so what I want to talk about today is that we are designed as humans to really do a lot of really cool and neat things. You can find people doing parkour, you can find people lifting and swimming and doing all types of things, but we don't live a lifestyle of fitness 24/7, 365 days a year that supports those types of activities. So what I mean is my average client, he or she, they work behind a computer. And so whenever they work behind a computer, they typically, instead of standing and, when you're doing lifting and things, you're all like this, they're spending most of their time with their working on the computer, and their arms are in front of them, or they're driving to work, or they're on their cell phone. Things are in front of them. They're eating food, whatever it is. And so we have spent decades, sometimes our entire lives, teaching our bodies that this rounded portion is what our body needs to do in order to be alive, to be successful. And so suddenly you find yourself jumping into with a trainer, or you pull up a YouTube video online, and they're pull up a YouTube video that shows you how to do yoga or one of these other stretching type modalities, and the first thing they say is open up your chest, and you start stretching, and you're like, oh my god, that feels so different than anything I've ever done. And you're loving it, and you stretch and you go through the poses and you get yourself all sore from it, and then you promptly go home and you go to sleep. And when you go to sleep, you'll grab your pillow and you will either snuggle up beside your spouse or whoever you might be sleeping with, or your pillow, and you lay like this for 4, 6, 12, however many hours it is that you sleep, and you've basically undone that entire bit of opening. So you jump out of bed, you get up, you brush your teeth, all your stuff's in the morning, you're eating your food, which is all of your arms are still using in front of you. Then you drive to work, or you may, and like me, I work from home as well. So I go straight to the computer, and then I spend hours, I would say 16 hours of my day like this. And then I would say, okay, now from 6 to 7, I'm going to go to yoga and I'm going to stretch out, and I can't see any difference. And then as soon as it's done, 6 to 7, I go back and I eat my food, and then I go back to bed. So this is what I'm trying to undo with some of these conversations, is to help you see that it's not just what you do on the yoga mat or in the gym or on the massage table. It's really what you do the rest of the time that make it where you start seeing day over day progress, and you actually start being able to stick with these programs and build up your confidence. So with that being said, so what I have my clients do is I want to know, how do you stand? How do you live your life, and what's going on? So what I typically do is I have them walk around while I'm setting up my table. I have a remote massage service, and so I come and I set up the table at their home. While I'm setting it up, I just have them walk around for a little bit, just as they're telling me what's going on and what we're here for. So they're kind of walking around, and then I get them to stand on these two scales. I have two, basically, I think these are $10 a piece scales that I picked up from some retail store. They're the same scale, they just didn't have the same color in stock. So what I have is this one here. It's the analog style scale, meaning I don't want the digital one, because the digital ones, you typically tap them and then you step on them and then it flashes up, tells you what your weight is, and then it doesn't change in real time. Whereas this one, you can individually adjust it and it can react to your real time motion. That's why I like these dials. So as long as you can center it out, zero it out back to zero. Doesn't really matter with the quality, you're just wanting to get a ballpark. So I have these, and I bring them to a client, and I set them on the floor, and shoulder width apart. And as I'm getting ready to do my basic intake, I have them stand on the scale. So we're talking, they're telling me about what's going on, why they scheduled the massage, what they want me to work on, what other areas, is it their knee, their hip, their foot, whatever it is, right? And as we're discussing it, they will typically kind of relax into that default mode of they're now in information providing mode. And as soon as I see them relax into this normal posture, whether they're talking about giving me their date of birth, all these other things that require them to think about it, they're in solid default mode. And this is where I'll say, okay, now, I'd like you to freeze where you're at, take a moment, and look down at the scale. And I don't care what it adds up to. I'm not judging you for weighing 75, 175, 275, 375. You know what your weight is. That's not for me to even have a discussion about. What I'd like you to do is look down and say, okay, so I'm standing on these scales. This one says 140. This one says 40. I weigh roughly between 180 and 185. So on a good day, I'm standing in this kind of rocked over position. Why is my leg hurting? Well, this one has a substantial amount more weight on it than this one does. So this is where we start having the discussion of, so your hip's hurting, your knee's hurting, your back's hurting. Now let's talk. Now we can have a real discussion. What do you do every day? Why are you, what are you doing to your body when you're not on the table? Some of the things that can contribute to this are poor footwear. I see primarily women, but men as well. We have those heeled shoes that rock us forward on our feet. We drive, and unless you have a stick shift, you are going to be doing everything with your one foot. You're going to be hitting the brake and the gas, hitting the brake and the gas. And when you do that, this foot is doing something totally different because it's supporting you. So your hips are now out of alignment because now you're supporting all of the weight of your driving foot on this hip. So, and then it just trickles up your body. Now, when you go to the gym, let's say you're doing squats, put the bar on your shoulder and you try to squat. Guess what? This guy's been designed to do a substantial heavier load just every day of the week, going up and down stairs, whatever you do. It's much stronger than this guy. So whenever I squat, my body's naturally going to shift over, and you're going to start seeing yourself like rocking over, and you're all weak and you're shaky, and that's what you're trying to resolve. Take a step back and think. For the last however long you've been driving, you've been standing, you've been doing, you've been neglecting a big portion of this one, so it's much weaker. Now you just need to. Now you have the information. Now you can start doing some strengthening exercises. So the nice thing about these two scales is this is where I get to have the real conversation with a client, and I say, okay, so let's get you to where balance is. So I can start talking to them and say, all right, close your eyes and let's get your hips in line. Work way up. Look at your shoulders. Shoulders are in line. All right. I have a little bit of scoliosis, so for me, I'm actively working to get my body back into alignment, and so that's something that I'm personally working on. However, if you don't have scoliosis, or even if you do, the idea that your hips should be level, unless you structurally have a shorter leg than the other one, which most people don't. We have a functionally shorter leg, meaning that we've tweaked ourselves for decades. So let's just be aware of that. Where's the top of your hip bone? Is that level? And I don't have it here, but I actually have taken a level to a client's house and said, all right, how far out of level are you? Same thing with your shoulders. Same thing for, your midriff. Like for better word, like your nipple line. They should be level. So if you take your shirt off and you're standing like this right here, everything's out of alignment. So I've had clients that have requested that I take a photo of them with their own phone so that they could see how do they stand naturally, and then what does a normal balance standing look like. So I work with them for a moment and get them to stretch and look around, and then, all right, so then I ask them, how does this feel to you? And typically it's like, I've never really stood this way. And as we stand here talking, they'll say, okay, so looking down, this one says roughly 80 pounds, this one says roughly 90 pounds, so I'm roughly in center here. So then as we're standing here, they say, okay, I can feel a difference in this calf. Now that this calf is carrying the full weight that it's supposed to, I'm going to start getting tired muscles. And so this is where having a good conversation around how do we nurture your body while you are reconditioning yourself to support your weight equally. It'll trickle up from your calves to your hips to your thighs to your back to your neck, and you will sleep so much better at night. After a few sessions, I keep breaking the scales out every few moments, and they week after week, month over month, they actually can be able to walk up and stand. And I've had clients now that actually had one break into tears when they realized just how out of balance they were standing every day. Now, whenever they stand on the scales, they look up and they can kind of get themselves in center, and they can look down and say, like, I'm figuring it out, and they have substantially less pain. So So that's just a quick crash into posture analysis, something you can do at home. If you have $20, massages are much more expensive than $20. So if you wanted to get started on how to do that, Walmart, Target has them both. Hope you're having a great day, and let me know if you have any questions. I've been at this for 7 years now, so I've seen quite a bit, and I'd be happy to answer your questions if you happen to have any. Thank you.